I'm not convinced that Call of Duty developers ever make guns broken on purpose. I'm not. I know sometimes we joke about it, but I'm not convinced it actually ever happens, although sometimes it can really feel like it was intentional. I mean, take a look at the FAMAS in Black Ops 1. This thing had a smoking fire rate. It only needed 3 to 4 shots to kill, no matter what. It gave it the best TTK in the game, right? I think Treyarch was intending for the recoil to be the main balancing act and mechanic here, is if you needed any real skill to compensate for the perfectly vertical kick. But as you already know, it wasn't nearly enough to make up for the stats of the FAMAS. It was basically the only gun you ever saw online as a result. Even in the PS5 port of Black Ops 1 right now, the FAMAS is by far the best, most popular gun in the game because it's just easy mode. But if you're not using the FAMAS, well, you're probably using the other gun that was way better than it was probably intended to be in Black Ops as well. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today, it's all about those guns that were accidentally broken. At number 19, the AK-74U in Black Ops 1. Let's stick with it. The SMG that completely invalidated every other SMG in that game and made you feel stupid for even trying to use something else. Now, to its credit, the other SMG offerings in this game were some of the worst ever. But the AK-74U had the power of a full-size AK-47, but it also had the mobility of an SMG. I don't think Treyarch intended for it to be quite this strong. Frankly, I think it's a comparison thing. On its own, the 74U in this game is very strong, but what made it so broken to me was the fact that every other SMG in the game sucked. So yeah, you could go try the Spectre, you could try the Caparis, however you say it. You could even try the Uzi. But why would you do that when you could just equip the AK-74U and do way better than you would have otherwise? This, to me, is the epitome of a no-brainer type of weapon. Thank you to everybody that comments every single day. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. Yes, we are adding some other list videos to the channel. We're spreading our wings out into the gaming world of top 10 and top 20. So if you have ideas or would like to support those videos, I would truly, truly appreciate it. Next up is the first burst rifle in COD history. Shocker. I know, a gun that was absolutely way too good. I definitely don't think Infinity Ward made it like this on purpose. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm talking about the M16 in COD 4. 3-round burst, instantly killed due to the 2-shot kill range and the ridiculous fire rate of the burst. All complete with no recoil and one of the dumbest noob tube attachments in Call of Duty history. This was experimental time. That's what we always say about COD 4 when we're criticizing it. But some things about it just, I mean, they're replacing COD history, right? And as much as I like to give IW some grace for this being their first modern COD game, because I don't give them a lot of grace here in the current state of things, I do wish the M16 had been patched in some way because it really did kill the variety of the game. Speaking of killing the variety of a game, it had to be somewhere on the list. The Akimbo models in Modern Warfare 2. This game was crazy. Everything was overpowered, somehow. Almost everything. There were some pointless guns. You had the USP-45, you had the F2000. Yeah, I said it. But one gun that was actually better than it was supposed to be was the Model 1887 shotgun, specifically in Akimbo mode. I'm not kidding when I say these things had near infinite range when the game first launched. And this is one of the very few things in Modern Warfare 2 that actually got patched because it was so seriously, obviously not supposed to be that way. The single model was pretty good. It was powerful. But the Akimbos, they broke the game in a game that was shipped broken. And I made sure to get some old school potato camera footage here on screen so you could see them in all their pre-patch glory. If you were there in this era, raise your hand. You're a legit old head right with me. Let me know in the comments section. At number 16, the SPR 208 in Warzone 2020. Bolt-action marksman rifle launched with a pretty serious bug that actually made it a hit-scan weapon. Now on smaller maps and standard 6v6, that wasn't a big deal. But in Warzone, it was straight-up game-breaking. All you had to do was point, click, enemy's dead, point, click. Turned what was a pretty decent bolt-action weapon into a top-tier killing machine because it removed a massive part of the skill gap by turning the game into a point-and-click adventure game. The hit scan conversion attachments were patched out because obviously they weren't supposed to be there on purpose, but the hit scan SPR era of Modern Warfare 2019 in Warzone was crazy. People were making 300-meter shots left and right. Somebody commented yesterday that I talk too slow and that all Call of Duty YouTubers talk too slow, and to play my videos on 1.25 and it sounds the same. Do I really talk slow? Because I've always had the thought that I actually talk a little fast and maybe I need to slow down. Let me know. Next up, and you could say this machine pistol was busted on purpose because how can you not see the issues with it right out of the gate? I saw them. The FMG9 Modern Warfare 3. But given the fact that it was actually nerfed, and also the fact that it was never brought back, I don't actually think it was on purpose. The FMG9 would instantly kill you if you were going up against it. The Kimbo user and the magazine being 36 rounds by default, all that, it felt like a troll. If you were running them in a Kimbo, you had 72 rounds to burn through at over 1,000 rounds per minute. So you only needed 3 bullets to connect in order to kill somebody. You do the math. I mean, do the math on the time to kill. Spoiler alert, it was literally unbeatable. Kind of like another gun in Modern Warfare 3 with an unbeatable time to kill that was definitely not on purpose. I'm segueing into a semi-auto shotgun with ridiculous ammo capacity, very high fire rate, and yet it still carried an absurd one-shot kill range when the game first dropped. How's that for speaking fast? Striker, Modern Warfare 3. People were literally running around the map with this, spamming the right trigger and getting insta-kills from mid-range. It ended up getting hit with one of the biggest nerfs in COD history a few weeks after the game came out. I think it was a 33% damage reduction across the board. That's stout. Now, it's still very annoying to this day, but the original version, it fits the bill of being accidentally broken. There's no way this gun was supposed to be this good. It was an oversight. A semi-auto shotgun with that kind of ammo capacity and one-shot kill range at mid-range? No way somebody actually tested this thing the right way. I think this one slipped through the cracks during the hectic development cycle that was Modern Warfare 3. At number 13, the MSBS and Ghost. I'm not entirely sure how Infinity Ward let this one through to ship and that we went gold. I mean, it was nerfed fast. I'm 100% confident that it was an accident. This was one of the fastest nerfs in COD history, and the only way you could have experienced this is if you were playing Ghost in the first week. The MSBS was a 3-round burst rifle, had an instant time to kill because it was, well, it was basically the COD 4 M16, but it had more attachments and it had more perks to it. So it only needed 2 shots to kill. There was 0 recoil. The fire rate was nuts. And when you mixed all that together, you had this rifle that was an insta-kill in every scenario. And to Infinity Ward's credit, they came down on this thing hard. Arguably went too far with the nerf because you went from God Gun to Gone Gun. Nobody used it. You never saw it again online after that. But if you were there, you remember how crazy this was in the beginning. Now let's talk about another bug gun from the Modern Warfare 2019 era, the AS Val. Assault rifle that would become iconic in the FPS world because of games like Battlefield. But when it first was added to Modern Warfare 2019 as DLC, it kind of made headlines for the wrong reasons. There was an attachment that would turn the AS Val into a semi-auto marksman rifle, but it would also, for whatever reason, make it ignore all walls and set pieces. You could cross-map the other team through infinite walls. The winning strategy was to fire snapshot grenades across the map so you could see where everyone was, and then you unload through all the walls until you killed the entire enemy team. Obviously, this wasn't on purpose, and obviously Infinity Ward patched it up pretty quickly, but as you can see by the footage on the screen right now, and questioning how it's possible for something like this to make it into the public's hands, what are we paying playtesters for? What kind of feedback are they giving? At number 11, the BAL 27 in Advanced Warfare. Now, starting weapons should never be this broken. We know this, but the BAL was, and still is, the best gun in Advanced Warfare, despite being a default unlock. You already know the story. I don't know why I tell it again, but I do. Fire rate was good, recoil low, iron sight's amazing, damage way too low or high. The BAL 27 had a really good, an amazing 3-shot kill range. There was a few variants that would make it a 3-shot kill in basically any scenario in the game, most infamously the Obsidian Steep. Now, Sledgehammer, they seemingly didn't mean for it to be this powerful. But I question why they didn't fully nerf it for the entirety of the AW life cycle. They nerfed it once or twice, but they never went nearly far enough to actually take it off the top of the tier list. So what was the point? Let me ask you guys. If you had any variants of the BAL, what variants did you own? Now we crack into the top 10. I think it's safe to say that this starting assault rifle is never supposed to be busted. The STG-44 and Call of Duty Vanguard, because then you have nothing to grind for or work towards in the weapon progression. But Sledgehammer, once again, they made the starting AR completely broken in COD Vanguard. This was actually kind of funny because the base stats weren't that good. I mean, I guess they were good. They weren't busted. But the gunsmith builds were so broken, and since you had the 10 freaking attachment slots in the game, this meant every time one busted build got patched, a new one just popped up a week later like a new weed in a garden, and or like a pimple, and they'd have to keep popping all the pimples on the STG-44 until eventually it became relatively balanced. But it was very busted for the longest time, and it was very obviously not on purpose because Sledgehammer just kept pushing out patches as if those band-aids would fix the problem. Now, a gun that was broken, but not because of any busted stats, no overpowered traits. The MV4 in Infinite Warfare was busted simply because it was easy. It was the easiest gun in the game to use, and it completely contradicted the design of the overall experience. Infinite Warfare was all about crazy movement, ridiculous abilities, but then the MV4 was just pointing and shooting and killing the enemy in 4 to 5 shots no matter what. Whatever situation, it was easy to use. It was your starting assault rifle. That's not supposed to happen because it wasn't overpowered at its core. Infinity Ward, they never felt the need to patch it, so it remains the most spam gun in the entire game. I mean, to this point, I'm assuming if anybody even plays that game, maybe it was finally patched. I think it was finally patched. I mean, but it still stayed at the top of the tier list because it was so easy to use. It was overpowered without actually being overpowered. How about that? That's kind of new, right? And number 8. The MP7 in Modern Warfare 3. One of the best, if you ask me, late unlocked guns in COD history. This is how you do it. The MP7 in Modern Warfare 3 had it all. I've said it before. It was a complete package. Damage of an LMG in the body of an SMG. I still think that's the best way to describe this gun. If you were there and you experienced it, you're probably nodding your head with me in unison. So, fired at something like 900 rounds per minute, killed in 3 to 4 shots in any scenario, had some of the best iron sights in Call of Duty history, had 0 recoil, had a default magazine of 40 rounds. I don't know how you were supposed to not put this on your class after you unlocked it. I still really don't know what was keeping Sledgehammer Infinity Ward from pushing out more patches to the game later in its life cycle, because it's not like they weren't patching things. We talked earlier, the Striker shotgun got nerfed. So why didn't the MP7? Why didn't the ACR ever get an adjustment? They were left alone despite being totally broken, and I don't necessarily understand why. And since we're talking about Modern Warfare 3, let's bring up the secondary weapon that was way too good, probably way better than it was supposed to be. And no, I'm not talking about the FMG9s. I'm talking about the one that was actually better than those, but it was so under the radar. The MP9. Modern Warfare 3. The machine pistol that was... It was an SMG. I'm serious. This thing outclassed half the FMGs in Modern Warfare 3 despite fitting in your back pocket, and I'm still not sure how it got through playtesting and development. Fired at 900 rounds per minute, 32 round mag, no recoil, killed in 3 to 5 shots very reliably. So why in the world was it a secondary? Who let it through? I am convinced that if Modern Warfare 3 hadn't been rushed through development, the MP9 would have been a primary weapon. But since the game was rushed through development, they must have needed another gun to fill that slot out. I mean, I guess in the secondary weapon category to fill it up. So they put the MP9 down there as if there was nothing wrong with that. But there was. At number 6. This assault rifle seemed pretty basic on the surface. Mainly just supposed to be a competitor to the M4 rifle. Talking about the GRAW 556 in Warzone 2020. Moderate fire rate, good accuracy, consistent damage. You know the drill with weapons like this. Kind of sounds like the MV4 from Infinite Warfare. But what gets the GRAW spot on the list is because when you jumped over to Warzone, for whatever reason, the GRAW was unbeatable. It was a laser beam, incredible range, had time to kill that was one of the best in the game at mid and longer. It even got to a point where people started dropping their sniper rifles for the GRAW because it was more consistent at long range, which that is just a wild thing to say. It was eventually patched to be less dominant, but if you were playing Warzone during the GRAW era, you probably remember how crazy this thing was. It shouldn't have been. Where are the playtesters? Where's the feedback from the playtesters? Maybe it is a conspiracy. Maybe these aren't accidents. Now we arrive at the top 5. Now, some people insist that this gun was broken on purpose as a way to revitalize Modern Warfare 2019, but with how quickly IW swooped in and patched it, I don't know if I believe that. The Psychoff in Modern Warfare 2019. The pistol was added to the game as part of a random update in early 2021. Pretty basic on its own. Few attachments made it, though, where it was completely broken. You had a full auto mod. You had an 80-round drum mag. Who does that? You had the akimbo. And then you bundle all those together in a nice little package, and you have a completely broken secondary weapon that was literally unbeatable up to mid-range. But like I said, Infinity Ward patched it super fast. So I'm not necessarily convinced that it was broken on purpose, as suspicious as it looked on paper for this random broken handgun to come out long after Modern Warfare season was ended. But whatever. Whatever. I don't know. I don't think it was on purpose. But it definitely gets a high spot on the list. Who gives a pistol a full auto mod and an 80-round drum mag? Next up, the bar in COD World War II. This gun got hit with one of the fastest nerfs in COD history, which tells me right away that it wasn't supposed to be as good as it was. Final assault rifle you unlocked in COD World War II, but as most of you know, COD World War II was rushed really rapidly through development, so a lot of things got overlooked. One of those things was the BAR. On one side, it was gratifying to get something this powerful at the end of the grind. On the other hand, it was way too good on launch day, and that's probably why Sledgehammer hit it with an emergency nerf 6 days after the game came out. 3-shot kill range on it was stupid. Fire rate was high. No recoil. So if you were playing COD World War II during the first week and you were somehow able to play a few matches without the game crashing and you were somehow able to align the moons and the planets together and play consistently enough to actually unlock the bar, you were untouchable. If you had it in your hands, you were. I know a lot of people were pissed when it got nerfed because they finally grinded and got it in their hands. And then after all the server issues and the crashes, and then Sledgehammer comes in and cuts its legs out from underneath. It was for the best, obviously. It needed to be nerfed. But it was annoying to grind all that time through all the issues and then have your reward essentially taken away from you. Yeah. At number 3, the infamous aimbot sniper shotgun hybrid that was only in game for a few hours before being removed while Infinity Ward could figure out what in the world happened. The Proteus. Infinite Warfare. If you were using the Proteus in shotgun mode, there was something wrong with the coding. It had perfect accuracy. I don't mean perfect in the sense that it fired totally straight. I mean perfect as if, anyone on your screen while you were in shotgun mode, the pellet would magically make its way to them, regardless of how much or how little they were actually in your hipfire spread. So yeah, you literally had an aimbot built into your shotgun. If you were playing on a hardcore game mode, which I know some of you crazy wild people do, the minimum damage was enough to instantly kill whoever you touched from any distance. People were literally just loading into hardcore lobby, flying around with the Proteus in hand, cross-mapping people with a built-in aimbot. Infinity Ward deleted the gun from the game after a few hours so they could patch it, but I have no clue how they shipped this out the door. You really expect us to believe that nobody in the offices knew that this had a built-in aimbot on it? Did you even play test? Now, number 2. When the Black Ops Cold War update first went live in the original Warzone, we had problems. Raven Software infamously didn't have time to actually test the Black Ops gun being added to the game, and then after they left the office for the holidays, right after putting the update out, there was nobody at HQ to fix the absolutely broken MAC-10 submachine gun. I mean, fire rate crazy, no recoil, damage profile through the roof, near instant time to kill regardless of how much armor you were wearing. The entire close range was the MAC-10. The entire mid-range meta, it was the MAC-10. Heck, even at long range, the MAC-10 could compete perfectly against other guns in the game. And since nobody was in the offices to patch it, they were all at home sipping on eggnog. The MAC-10 dominated Warzone for the first several weeks in late 2020 and into early 2021. And it wasn't the only gun from that patch that was causing issues. We arrive at number 1 today. Thank you if you made it to the end of this video. The gun that literally made people quit Warzone until it was patched. The DMR-14. Warzone 2020, the semi-auto rifle that was also added to the game with the Black Ops Cold War update that was infamously not tested, and it had even more negative impact on the experience than the MAC-10. The DMR would kill basically anyone from basically any distance in 2 to 3 shots, despite having this very high fire rate and no recoil. The entire game became a DMR-14 spam content game. Whoever got their loadout drop first, they would win the match. They would have their DMR before anyone else. They would instantly kill everybody from any distance, and there was nothing you were able to do about it. People were literally quitting Warzone in droves and uninstalling it until Raven Software could get back to the office and patch the DMR because the game was borderline unplayable. And you say, Jimmy, why were they uninstalling? That's a lie. No, it's not, because it took up so much room they didn't want to play, so they uninstalled it so they could install other games until Raven got back and they fixed it. Now, with how obviously broken the gun was, I think we all know it wasn't broken on purpose, right? Wink, 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 wink. But I think this one will live on in the memories of COD old heads like myself. The best way I can describe it is this was an absolutely bananas era of Call of Duty. And there you go. 20 guns that I'm just going to lean on the side of trust. They were accidentally broken when they were shipped. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree, and I'll see you soon.